In the previous video about analytic accounting, I mentioned it was possible to add some specific project management feature linked with the analytic accounting, and especially the fact that you could track the time spent on a specific project or analytic account. I would like to show how this works in this video. And the first step for doing that would be to go on the analytic account after we have installed the project management module and check the use task button. In order to have access to these new settings on the analytic account, you will have to install the project module, which I did on this instance, and then you'll see that in the analytic accounts you'll have a new checkbox. Usually this checkbox will be located right under the name of the analytic account here, but you can see that on my screen it's not being displayed. That's simply because I'm not yet in debug mode, but if I go through the debug mode, my screen is now reloading. You'll see that this button is now available. Now if I click on this button, the effect will be quite straightforward. If I save the analytic account, I can go then in the project management, and you'll see that a project has been created. This project is of course now linked to my analytic account. If I didn't click on use task, this project wouldn't exist. It's of course possible to create the analytic account the other way around, because if I create now a new project, you will see that it creates an analytic account. Let's create that project, call it conception of X by Z product. You see that I have a second project now, and if I have a look at my analytic accounts here, advisor, analytic accounts, now I have a new project, a new analytic account that has been created as well. And of course, on that analytic account, I now have the use task that has been selected by default. In order to have this use task button, I mentioned that we had to install the project management module, but if I want to make real use of this button, I also install on my side the timesheet module in the employees module. This will allow me to record timesheet on the task and then see the effect of these timesheets directly into my analytic account. So let's first create a new task in my project management. And here I will create my first task in my conception product here. I create my first mockups task. By default, the task is assigned to myself. Anyway, I'm the only employee at the moment. I will say that I'm already working on it and record the first hours of work and say that I had a meeting and that it lasted 2 hours. I save the task. And now, because I entered some timesheet element here, you'll see that in the analytic accounting, I can have a look at here my cost and revenues, and now I have a new entry. You can think that this is weird, we have a new entry, but we have no amount being linked to this entry. That can be explained, and I did it on purpose, because here if you have a zero amount, it may be because there is a lack of configuration, and usually you can modify this setting by going into your employees form view. I will select here my administrator, which is the only employee I have. I click on edit, and in the HR settings, you will see that there is no timesheet cost associated to my employee. Once I enter some timesheet costs, of course, it won't change the analytic entry I already entered, but at least the next one will be encoded correctly with a cost. So let's go back to my project. Let's record some time spent on the same task and enter a second meeting for 2 hours as well. And if I go back to my analytic accounting, you'll see that now on my cost and revenues, I have my second meeting here that has an amount that is negative. Now that I already spent some time on this specific project, I could think of maybe reinvoicing the time I spent along with all the other expenses. I didn't specify that this project specifically was meant to be reinvoiced to one of my clients, but it could. In fact, we have two solutions here. We can either invoice manually or automatically the time that has been spent. In this video, I will only cover the manual way, as if you want to make this automated, we should have, well, it's a better solution, we should have created a sale order beforehand. So here I will cover the manual way first. If I want to know how much I need to reinvoice my clients, you know that you can have a look here at all the analytic entries linked to a specific analytic account. You have a sum here, but maybe sometimes you will have lines that are related to different months and part of it you already invoiced. So what you can do is group eventually by timesheet month and year. Well, it's just by month, not only timesheet month. You will have the ability to have the global amount for this month, and it could give you an idea of how much you could invoice. But of course, this is how much it cost you till now. But I need to go then into the sales invoice if I want to invoice that amount, or at least a bit more than that. I will select my client and say, okay, this is the invoicing for February for the product. I select the analytic account. I could select a specific tag. Here I won't be using one. And let's say I want to have some margin. I didn't select or specify a tax here. And here it is. If I validate my invoice, then I can have a look at my Analytic account and see that here I now not only have cost, but I also have now revenues for this analytic account. The description here being the description you put on your invoice. If you want to track also tasks spent on issues, not only on the task, what you can do is install the issues module, and then you'll have access to a new checkbox in the configuration of your accounting. As you can see, on each analytic account, you'll then have access to a new button, a new checkbox, which is the use issued checkbox. And if you check that checkbox, every time that somebody is spending some time on the issues, it will be recorded as costs as well on your analytic account. Of course, you can have different kinds of settings and maybe say that you would like to track the time spent on the task but not on the issues, because you may think that it's not some kind of stuff that needs to be recorded or invoiced to a client. But if you want to track the time spent on the issues and eventually reinvoice it, you need to check that button. And this concludes the video about the analytic accounting and the link with the project management.